Hello and welcome. My name is Cassandra, and today I've decided to sit down and do a filmed reflection of the things I knit in 2022. So part of the reason I was inspired to do this is because I watch a lot of YouTube while I knit. I also listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts while I knit, but right around this time of year, also last year, I saw a lot of people putting up like what I knit in the last year videos. I really enjoy watching those, so I thought I would basically film one myself, so that I can kind of look back at it at later times in the year. However, instead of going over everything I knit, not that it's that many items by comparison to other people, but I started going through my statistics and I thought it would be more interesting, especially because I came up to some very interesting conclusions by going over my knitting statistics for this year. I thought it would be cool to kind of, I don't know, go over it in a different way. So hopefully this is also helpful for myself in the future, and I can kind of follow a similar format next year. I've been experimenting with like video reflections, and I find that they're really useful for me because in general I'm a person that I process things verbally. I really like talking, and I also like listening to people and using that as a way of I don't know, yeah, processing information. So I know that I'll rewatch this video because I've already re-listened to like other reflection videos I've made for myself. So anyways, that's my introduction. So let me get started. This year I knit a total of 16 items. This only includes items that I finished knitting in 2022. So some of the items, for example, one of the items I actually started in 2021 in December, but is a really long item, or it took me a really long time to knit. So I've included it in this video. And then other items like this vest I'm wearing right now, I actually started in 2022, but I finished it in the new year in 2023. So I haven't included this vest. It's just a Stockholm slipover, like everyone has knitted this vest. So of the 16 items, technically it was like 17 items, but I'll explain that in a second. I was surprised to figure out that only 7 of these items I knit for myself, because if you'd asked me, I would have assumed that I'm quite a selfish knitter, so I usually knit for myself. But I think the difference is I knit a lot for other people, but I knit the very big projects for myself, if that makes sense. So I knit a lot of socks and hats. You'll see like baby sweaters and stuff like that for other people. But yeah, 7 items for me, 9 items for other people. And I've actually since gifted this like sort of half item to my sister as well. So of those 16 items, 5 of them were pairs of socks. So I knit 2 pairs for me, 2 pairs for my husband Mickey, and 1 pair for my sister. I knit 4 hats. 2 are basically identical hats for my aunt and my grandma. 1 was a hat for me, which I'll talk about in a second, and 1 was a baby hat I gave to a friend of mine for her new baby. And it fits him so perfectly. I don't have the hat with me, and I don't want to show a picture of it, but like, it is, she sent me a picture of this baby, and it's like, I didn't even know the baby's eyes were green when I made the hat. It's like a green hat. It just fits the baby so well. It's like actually one of my proudest knits of the year. I should probably put that in there. I knit 3 sweaters this year, 2 for me and 1 for another friend of mine that had a baby. And other things I knit was a pair of mittens, a stuffed animal for a further friend of mine that had a baby, and a tank top that I might actually have to grab because I don't have that out yet. Okay, so then I kind of got into like some of the categories that I'm talking about, because going over all these knits, some of them are like pretty boring standard things, but I want to go over my favorite knits of the year, and those are basically things that I have worn a lot. And my number one thing is actually, I needed to film this video before I put it in the wash or washed it, is the ranunculus sweater I wore to my wedding. I wear this sweater all the time. It's one of my favorite sweaters. It has this like perfect off-white color. I did a just a normal bind off of the sleeve. It's like pilling a lot because it's cashmere, but it's not pilling as much as you would think. I did it basically to pattern, except I think I did less raglan increases. I knit this just around the time, or maybe just before the newest version of the pattern that has like lots of sizes was released. So I was already sort of modifying it because I'm quite small. It's so soft. It feels like a cloud. You can dress it up or down. I don't know. I wear this as like the way other people wear sweatshirts and sweatpants. Like I wear this sweater. I love this sweater. It's amazing. It's so cozy. Yeah, it's amazing. So this is 100% my favorite knit of the year. It's gotten so much wear. I think I wear it like twice a week at least as a minimum, I'd say. Um, okay, my next favorite knit, and I didn't 100% expect this, is these cable mittens I made. I sort of modified the pattern a very little bit just because similar to cooking, I really find it challenging to just knit a pattern and not modify it. So these are, I'm going to butcher the name, Sidnama mittens. I'll try and like link it or something. They're a free pattern, I'm pretty sure. I knit it with my favorite yarn of the year, which is an unspun alpaca wool from, I don't remember, some German company, maybe Zauberwolle or something like that. They're so cozy and lovely. They were so fun to knit. The yarn is so wonderful to work with. They don't weigh a lot. I used way less than the yardage that was recommended. And I have a lot of the yarn left. I ended up, basically, they don't use a lot of yarn, and I love them. I have them always in my pocket, and they haven't pilled at all. This is a really hard-wearing wool for how soft it is, and just overall, like, incredible pattern. They're a little bit small on me, but I didn't really block them very vigorously, and they did say to block them, and I made them like, my modification was to make them a lot smaller because I assumed that they wouldn't fit my hand otherwise, and maybe if I had made them exactly to pattern, they'd be more, like, even more comfortable, but I'm really happy with them. They still made it to my favorite knits of the year list. I wear these every day, basically in the winter. And then my other favorite knit of the year is my highlighter hat. Like I said, I made 2 hats, not using a pattern, just like starting with like a Judy's Magic cast on it, just like increasing until it looked right, and I had to like rip it back because it was way too big. It looked like a Rasta hat for my grandma. So I knit 2 hats with basically the leftover cashmere from my wedding sweater held together with a sock weight yarn, like a Malabrigo sock yarn that I wasn't really, like, I loved the color, but it was like a very cool tone, and I just don't wear that many cool tones. And I put those together, and it was just such a luxurious color. Well, I had more of this cashmere left over, and what I did, I think this is very similar to this pattern, like the concept is very similar to this pattern called I can't remember it, but I'll put it in the bottom bar. I didn't use that pattern. It's basically like, what's it called? Muscle hat, muscle hat or something like that. Anyways, it's a hat. You basically just knit this like long tube and then you flip them inside out. The thing is, like, I have a hat very similar to this that's, like an industrial made hat. That's sort of this double knit, and I love it. It's actually my standard favorite hat. And what I did was I just copied the measurements of that hat and I used my gauge. And I ran out of the cashmere at some point, as you can kind of see. And then, so that's the part that goes inside. So I have like this toasty inside layer of cashmere and sock wool. And then on the outside, I have like this, I don't know, I think it was called Treliz. I look like the OG hipster with this hat on. But anyways, I love this hat. I wear it all the time. And I like it because I'm really small again. I like get lost in crowds, like easy to find me with this hat. So it was very easy. I just did some math to figure out how big it had to be and da da da, and I love it. And it was also one of my proudest knits this year because I love this idea of having cashmere on the inside to kind of keep you warmer and softer, and then having like the really bright color on the outside. And yeah, so that brings us to the next category, which are my proudest knits of the year. So this guy is on that list. And then we come to, like, I think the thing, like, I don't know, people in my life really talk about a lot, which is that I knit myself my own wedding dress this year. Well, it was more like a wedding set. Sorry, I have to kind of like move it around, but this is my wedding skirt. You can see it has like this beautiful edge to it. It had a top to it as well, but I didn't see myself wearing it. I could see myself wearing this bottom again because it's just, I don't know, really beautiful colors. But the top was like a bit too tight, and I didn't really like the sleeves. They were like really tight on my arms. I mean, it was fine for like the one day, but then I didn't really see myself wearing it again. And my sister liked it, and it's way more her colors, so I just gave her the top, and she's been wearing it, so that was a success. I feel like my hair got messed up from the hat, but so this was a huge labor of love, but I knit it really fast, considering just how much knitting it is. I mean, like thousands of meters of lace knitting, but lace knitting goes so fast. I mean, my opinion. And it was also, I knitted it in this sort of like superwash merino lace yarn. Long story short, it like grew a ton as well. So I had actually knit some extra rows, and if I had knitted any more, I would have not been able to, like, I would have had to buy like taller heels, which is not my style. So yeah, that was definitely one of my proudest knits, and I think probably the knit I'm gonna remember this year for, because oftentimes when people, like, if I'm with a friend of mine that knows I knit and I talk about my knitting in front of a third party, they'll be like, oh yeah, and she knit her wedding dress. So yeah, obviously I'm very proud of it. But if you are a knitter, like if you are a knitter and you know about knitting, this pattern, I just literally followed the pattern. I did some like interesting stuff for the, like splitting it into a top and a bottom that I'm kind of proud of. I know that there's like a separate pattern you can buy where you have that, but I didn't have time to like faff around with it. I literally had like, I don't know, 1 week to knit the top. So I just sort of freestyled it because I kind of was in the pattern at that point. Okay, but the other pattern that I'm like super proud of is this pattern. I knit this shortly after it was actually my next project. This is the striped sweater, I call it, but it's based on, you can see there's like a ton of untucked in strands here. This is the Kangaroo Pouch Sweater by Elizabeth Zimmerman. So firstly, this yarn I had in my stash. I bought this yarn in 2021 when I was like, I'm really serious about knitting. This is a hobby that I can see myself doing like all throughout the year. I'm gonna treat myself to some like really nice yarn. So I bought this yarn. This is a yarn by, I want to say it's called the Yarn Company. Oh my gosh, I have to go look this up now because it's gonna drive me crazy. But I bought this yarn. It is such a luxurious yarn. I mean, it's got like silk and it's got yak. Oh my god, I really want to figure out what it is. Like, why can't I find, oh, there it is. Okay, I'm looking on my Ravelry here. Of course, on my Ravelry, I'm usually pretty good at notes. Haven't put down what this yarn is. Why would I have done that? Yeah, that would make totally way too much sense. Fiber Company, that's what it's called, the Fiber Company. Yeah, I think it's got like yak, silk. No, it's just like fancy freaking yarn, okay? Expensive yarn. And I, in my like naivete, bought, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you include the white colors. Like some random quantities of each of them. And I didn't know what to do with them. So they sat basically in my stash for 6 months, and I was like, I'm gonna make myself this beautiful colorwork sweater. Then I started calculating, like, because then I started knowing a little bit more, calculating a little bit about like how much I was gonna need for a colorwork sweater. I was like, girlfriend, you do not have enough yarn for a colorwork sweater. So I kept on like looking for patterns and like reading books and doing other projects. And then I was reading a book I already had by Elizabeth Zimmerman, who, if you know her, well, if you know her, you know her, but if you know, she's like the fairy godmother of knitting, in my opinion. And she's also the queen of like the recipe knitting, if that makes sense. So she has a recipe in one of her books for this. And the interesting part about this is it's a steeked sweater. So you knit like bottom up, then you knit, you have these big holes here, like these holes, and you keep knitting, and then you cut this part. So this kind of is connected, and then you cut it open to put in your sleeves. And then you do a set-in sleeve. I tell you, I must have ripped back this one sleeve 3 times. I was so done with this sweater when I was done with it. I was so ready for it to be over. But it's so, so beautiful. I get so many compliments where I wear it. It's so soft. It's so warm. It's literally, it's luxury incarnate. I mean, if I had to nitpick, well, obviously I don't love these like things that stick out, but I could weave those in, but like, why would I do that? I would have preferred if this neckline was a little bit lower, but I love high necklines in general. You can't really tell from my outfit today, but I usually like wear a really high neck. Not like strangle high, but like just, you know, covering this like necklace I always wear. So in that sense, it does actually suit me. It looks so good with dresses. It's just, love this sweater. And I'm just so proud also that I thought of this like pattern. Her version of it has like a dark color, a little white, and then another dark color. But like this alternating to me was like what genius when I came up with it. I don't know if you've ever had this like moment of creative, like, psh, yes, you've been sitting on this problem for like, at least for me, it was like months. And then I was like, yes, this is how I use this yarn, and I don't have to knit it like color work. So, because when you knit color work, you end up using a lot more yarn. Anyways, I'll stop rambling about this one, but super, super, super proud knit. And then I gotta look at my list here. Yeah, the highlighter hat. And another thing I'm proud of is, my Tilly the Turtle. So Tilly the Turtle is my take on Holly the Hedgehog. I don't have a picture, or I probably have a picture of it I could insert, but I don't have physically this turtle any longer, but I basically knit a turtle, like a stuffed turtle, based on Holly the Hedgehog from Knitted Animal Friends. And yeah, it's my first stuffed animal project. It took way longer than I thought. I used all recycled materials to stuff it. Anyways, I was just super proud of it when I made it. It looked so cute. And I modified a hedgehog pattern to be a turtle. So like that was also an achievement for me. And the last one, I have to like go away and find it. Give me a second. So the last like proudest knit is this tank top that I have here, that I knit myself without a pattern. I used like a little fake, I guess they were real cables here on the side, and I used it to hide the decreases I was doing. I will actually end up ripping back maybe like the last, I don't know, whatever, 10 centimeters of this, and knitting it with more decreases, because then I could make it longer, but also because I think it does flare out a lot. Also, I used an I-cord bind off for some reason here. I think I was just like really into I-cords around the time that I finished knitting this. because I finished like random projects with I-cords. Um, Anyways, I'm gonna be ripping this back at some point, but I'm just really, really proud of the construction of the back. Like, I don't know if you can see it. I picked up some stitches there. I'm really proud of the shaping of the arms. I'm really proud of the edge detailing. Like, I just put like a lot of ideas into this tank top. I have a matching pair of shorts of this yarn. It's like an incredible yarn that's been discontinued, unfortunately. Um, I think it's got like linen and cotton, maybe some silk, but super soft. It's by Lana Grossa, and yeah, I found another skein in the color that I already knit the shorts in the discount section of my yarn store, or one of my local yarn stores. And yeah, I was like, I'm gonna make a top to match my shorts. But I didn't like any of the patterns online, so I kind of freestyled it. And since I freestyled it, it took me like the whole summer to get to the point where I was done knitting it. And then it was like too flared and stuff. So, anyways, a project for next year, but I'm still super proud of the top. The top is perfect. Like up until like right below the bust area is perfect. It just needs like a little more shaping. Um, yeah. Okay. And then next, I don't know what that is. Yarn fluff. Okay. Then my next like category is favorite knitting techniques I learned this year. I think this is kind of a fun thing to do, and I wish I had done it for last year because, I mean, the German twisted cast on, for example, would have like featured in that, because before that I only knew like the long tail, the backwards loop, and like the knitted cast on or something like that. And I learned like a lot of new techniques last year that would have been fun to reflect on. But for this year, I have 4 techniques that I want to talk about. So the first one is, hold on, I'm trying to see if there is anything I haven't shown yet. Okay, yeah, there is. And perfect. They fit with the techniques. Okay. So the first one is the Weave and Steven. I think that they're called that. Stephen West has a video on this where he shows you, if you are a thrower, how to like weave in your yarn as you're knitting. And that's also why like you see like loose ends everywhere in my knitting, because after I've finished like weaving it in like that, sometimes I don't even bother weaving in that like last end because it's not going to move with the Weave and Steven. So the Weave and Steven has, to me, transformed like the like the weaving in process. I basically never weave anything in except if it's like an edge, or in some cases you can't really use it. But anyways, I would say like 95% of the time I'm using the Weave and Steven right now, and it has transformed my knitting, especially since the really long-term project I'm working on right now is like a colorwork house jacket. And without the Weave and Steven, literally I would not finish this jacket because it uses like all bunches of this scrap yarn I found at a flea market. It's not really scrap yarn, but like these different colors I used it found at a flea market. I didn't know what to do with them, so I just found this colorwork thing and I'm changing all the way through. Yeah, Weave and Steven is amazing, especially if you're a thrower. Okay, the other one that I think has really transformed my sock knitting game, because I knit a lot of socks, especially in the summer, is the garter stitch heel. I think this is what it's called. It looks like this. It's like very stretchy. It really fits well. I'm a big advocate of the gusset, like gusset and heel flap, whatever. I think that those fit me really well. And I think everything else I've tried, like Fleegle heels or whatever, don't really fit my foot very well. However, this is way, way faster and fits almost as well. So I learned about this heel construction on the Reverie sock. I don't have the sock with me right now. I've just started another one actually, because I gifted it to my sister. However, also that sock pattern is just freaking amazing because it has like just the right amount of color work, and I don't know, it's just a really, really solid sock pattern in my opinion if you like color work socks. And it's great if you have like a variegated jar and you don't know what to do with it and you want to like match it with a solid. I don't know. It's just a good pattern. But okay, moving back to it. Ever since I've done that heel construction, I basically haven't done another one. Here's another pair of socks I knit for my boyfriend using he's not my boyfriend, my husband. And using this yarn that my mother-in-law gave me, and she was like, I think these colors are really for you. And I mean, they're very like earth tones, but this orange, like, I don't know, this stripe situation is so random to me. So when I was knitting with this, I was like, oh, this yarn is like, there's so much of this yarn. So I got 2 pairs of socks for Mickey, and I got another pair of socks for me, which I literally can't for the life of me find. But so I think I've knit 4 socks in total this year that use this heel construction. I knit 3 for myself. So one that looks just like this, but my size. This pair, and the original Reverie socks. And then I knit one with a Flegel heel for Mickey, but I don't think that fits him very well either. So I think I'm just not going to use the Flegel heel. I know it suits some people, it just doesn't suit me. Okay, the other thing that I learned this year that was a total game changer is the half stretchy bind off. So if you know like the very stretchy bind off where you basically like knit into each bind off again, I love that bind off, but it really like flares out, especially for socks. I find it really flares out a bit too much for my taste. However, if you only do that on the knits, it is really effective at giving you a very similar like stretchiness, but doesn't flare out quite as much. And I learned this technique watching Heather and Hops's knitting podcast, which is also like one of my favorite knitting podcasts. She's just so chill to know. I also really love her style. But anyways, she talks about this method, and I find it really, really, yeah, just super useful for socks, especially because I'm a toe up sock knitter like 90% of the time. Yeah, it's like a great thing. Also, sizing up like half a needle size or something, like half a millimeter up when I'm binding off, because I think even when I'm like trying to bind off loosely, I end up binding off like super tightly, and it's like a good buffer, let's say, for me. And then the last, and I'd say this is like also my proudest new knitting technique, is two-handed Fair Isle knitting. I love this. This is, for me, I don't know. I think having learned this technique, I can hardly go back to like not having a Fair Isle project on. I'm enjoying it so much. So at the moment I've been knitting for like months the spot sweater, but I'm making it into a coat, more like a jacket, by Anne Benzel. I've heard like mixed things about the designer as a whole, but I think that the pattern, I'm like not unhappy that I have the pattern, but I think I would think twice before buying another pattern from her, because of her stance on size inclusivity. But in general, I think I'm going to try next year to like kind of construct my own garments, like, or follow these sort of recipe patterns like Elizabeth Zimmerman has. I think it is really great to follow patterns and learn new techniques. But I would also, yeah, sometimes I think it's nicer to not have to like make gauge or whatever, just like use whatever gauge you get and go for it. And I'm not scared of like doing a little bit of math, so yeah. Anyways, so the two-handed Fair Isle knitting, total game changer, so fun to do. It's like really relaxing and fun for your brain knitting. Two-handed Fair Isle, yeah, I can only recommend it because like once you get into it, it's so relaxing. So yeah, I have to say I still struggle a little bit with the tension, like the continental knitting style tension, but I'm getting better at it. I think I could probably just do like knits, continental style, but I don't really understand how you like do the purls. So maybe that's something for next year. In any case, this has already been very long. I pretty much finished everything I needed to talk about, or everything I've written down to talk about. And thank you for watching. If you've watched this to the end, well done. I don't know what I'm doing, can you tell? And that's all. Bye.